Hello, fourth graders. This week we will continue to learn about California Indians and the mission system. Last week you had the choice to either read pages 41 through 44 or watch the video. For those of you who watched the video, I'm going to give you a quick review, and for those of you who read it, you may enjoy the review as well. So let's go ahead and look at set the scene. In the 1700s, more Europeans were exploring and settling in California. As you know, at this time, there were already hundreds of thousands of California Indians living in here. We learned about the Chumash, the Cahuilla, the Maidu, the Hupa. These are all tribes already living here. Over here, we see this wonderful map of California, and you see San Diego, Monterey, and San Francisco. Each of those cities in California we'll learn about because they tend to be important later on. This is where the missions established presidios. Presidios are forts. In this title, Europeans Settle in California, in 1767, Spain sent a soldier named Gaspar de Portola to run its California colony. And a colony is a settlement of people who come from one country to live in another land. When he arrived in California, Portola led an expedition to explore the area near present-day Monterey. An expedition is a journey made for a special purpose. Two Spanish missionaries also traveled, and a missionary is a person who teaches his or her religion to a group of people who have different beliefs. Now you can probably imagine the belief systems that the Spanish had varied greatly compared to the belief system that the Native Americans had. Father Juan Crespi kept a journal about his trip. Father Junipero Serra started a mission at San Diego in 1769. A mission is a settlement set up by a religious group to teach their religion and other ways of life to Native people. Later, in 1775, Captain Juan Bautista de Anza led an expedition of hundreds of Spanish settlers. They settled in the area that is now San Francisco. And here you will see Mission San Luis Rey de Francia, which was established in 1798. This mission does have this bell tower, and you will see in many missions they have a bell. The bell was meant not for decorative purposes, but it was to keep the Native Americans on the schedule. The bells would indicate when it was time to get up, when it was time to eat, when it was time to do chores, and when it was time to pray. Everything at the missions, though, as you can imagine, was not great. The missionaries wanted the California Indians to come to the mission, and they kind of bribed them. They gave them gifts such as beads, clothing, and food so they would come live at the missions. There, these California Indians learned how to farm and make new things. However, once they came to the missions, some California Indians were not free to leave. They could not return to their land. They were forced to give up their way of life and work hard. They also had to learn Spanish and follow Catholicism, the religion of the Catholic Church. Sadly, many died from diseases such as measles and smallpox that were brought over by Europeans. Now, the Europeans didn't die from those diseases as much because their bodies were immune to them. A few California Indians fought against the mission system. Some of this resistance was violent. For example, California Indians destroyed the San Diego mission in 1775. Others never joined the mission. They chose to stay on their lands and keep their way of life. And here's a picture that shows California Indians learn new skills on missions. This is where women and children made rope. They also learned how to make candles. They learned to make olive oil. Here's a picture of Father Junipero Serra. If you go to the Ventura mission along with the other missions that he founded, you will find statues or a literature about him. And you are free to read this. This is on page 44 in your social studies book. We will continue with Unit 2, Early People in California, Lesson 4. You can follow along in your social studies book on page 45. So the title is, What Was Spain's Influence in California? If you recall, the King and Queen of Spain sent priests, missionaries, soldiers, and explorers to go ahead and explore the land of California. They thought it would be a great asset to them. In this lesson, we're going to look at cause and effect. A cause is what makes something happen, and an effect is what happens as a result. So here's an example. If the cause was I was eating my ice cream rather slowly on a hot sunny day, what would the effect be? It would melt. You are correct. We will look at the location of the missions. The mission started over here in San Diego, and they extended all the ways up to San Francisco. In 1769, Spanish built the first California mission down in San Diego. One fun fact, there are 21 missions in California. They go all the ways from San Diego de Alcala all the ways up north to San Francisco Solano. San Francisco has 2 missions, and there are 21. The path of the missions is known as El Camino Real, otherwise known as the King's Highway. As you are driving along the 101 or the 1, you will see it's kind of a patinaed, almost rusted looking bell. That is letting you know that you are on the King's Highway. Another interesting fact about the missions is most of them were built 1 walking day's distance apart from each other. So we have the San Buenaventura mission. Which is located in Ventura, if you walked from San Buenaventura to Santa Barbara. Continuing, here we have the location of the missions. Spanish missionaries built many missions in California and throughout Spain's colonies in the Americas. They wanted the California Indians to be Catholic. That is a key point to remember in all of this. Remember, the king and queen sent people to explore, and they knew Native Americans were living here. Their goal was to convert them to be Catholic. From 1769 to 1821, many missions were created in California. There are missions in other states as well. The Spanish government wanted the number of Catholic missions in California to grow. This was because California was an important part of Spain's land in North America. If you look up here, remember we saw that most of this was called New Spain. Right over here. It's not Mexico, not Texas, Arizona, California. It was just New Spain, land that was owned by the king and queen. The Spanish thought that if California Indians believed in Catholicism, they would support Spain's colony. More people meant more power meant more control meant more money. That was their primary goal, money. To attract large numbers of California Indians, the missions had to be built near where the groups lived. Remember, we talked about earlier, where would you choose to build your mission? We wouldn't want it in the desert because it would be very hard to get resources. The missions were also built near natural resources such as rivers, forests, and fertile land that was good for growing crops. Here you see the Spanish built many missions in California, such as this one in San Diego in 1769. The missions also had to be safe and easy to get to. They were close to bays on the coast so that ships could land nearby. A trail called El Camino Real was started in 1770 to connect the missions. The Spanish built forts along the trail to serve as a military and trading post. A fort is a building used by soldiers to defend an important place. We have 3 presidios in California. They had one in San Francisco, Santa Barbara, Monterey, and I believe San Diego. The missions priests were part of a Catholic group known as the Franciscans. They taught the California Indians how to make things such as olive oil and leather goods. Then the missionaries traded these items for products from the eastern United States. At this time, California missions produced goods for trade with other countries. The missions earned money from trading. This made the missions even more important to the Spanish because they were making money. Because the missions were important, the priests who ran them gained power. In fact, some priests, such as Father Junipero Serra, were given control over the soldiers in their areas. Again, right over here we see Most of the missions were built one day's journey from the next mission along El Camino Real. Right over here is a picture of a priest, and if you would like, you could go ahead and read about him. This is Father Junipero Serra. This is an actual statue. They do have this one at the San Buenaventura Mission as well. Okay. And that concludes today's reading.